Hello again, guys. Now I'm talking about another Smurf called Yannic1504. This player you can check in the AO2 leadership stats profile. He has in one-on-ones 832 elo currently at the time making this, with 211 wins and 215 losses. Well, at least when you press without when you just put the name of the player in the search bar, you'll see 209 wins and 250 losses, amounting to almost 50%, 49.29% of win rate. So that's 50% win rate, typical of a Smurf. And not just this 50% win rate, you also have the a high quantity of numbers of wins and losses very similar. It's like it's almost the same number. So if when you press 200, when you press that player, you will not see 209 wins, you'll see 211 wins. So if you add 215 wins, that's almost tied. So let's see the game in which this took place, where I was matched make against one of a dirty Smurf. Just to do some spoilers, he decided to do early castle drop, castle drop, castle drop, castle drop. Like, okay, first thing, that this could be not an 800 elo player. Perfect circular motion with a scout. Perfect circular motion with a scout. First sign. Perfect circular motion with scout. On 30 seconds. I don't do this. I don't do this perfect circular motion. Is this guy a circle in his head memorized? Like, I was starting to scout 1, 2, 3, or 4 places. And meanwhile, this guy had how many? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This guy has 13 gather points for the scout, where I have 3. How come this guy be 4 times faster than me? More than 4 times faster, because a 12 is 4 times. So nearly 5 times as faster as me, if he was 15th. How? How come an 832 elo player can display already this rapidity? Because he's not. He's a liar. So again, I tell you, even if I always look at the stats of the player, once I finish the match, I always look at his rank, everything, the number of matches he played and everything. I don't just look at the match in itself, and I add the pieces to the puzzle. I'm not one of those guys who say, okay, this is an isolated thing, and that is an isolated thing, and nothing makes sense together. No, it doesn't make sense if you don't want it to make sense, which is a completely different thing. And I have reported in other games than AO2 Smurf profiles, and in most of cases that grieving has been successful. Don't come to me saying that I don't know what I'm doing. I know exactly how to spot a cheater in these video games, and I will continue to do it. It gives me enjoyment. So, perfect circular motion with the scout and the abuse of the pathing, the gather point pathing. He's using perfect pathing. What else he'll be doing? Let's just see the pathing of that scout. No, he doesn't leave anything black. This guy needs to explore every little piece of the map. So already obsessed with exploration. Meanwhile, I was looking here and there, but as you can see, Nothing extraordinary. This guy was already obsessed with exploration. Decides to go for fishing ships. Has melee. That makes sense. Uses a TC to get the elephant. Just let me see if the scout has more hotkeys. No, not yet. Right here, I aged faster than him, but it was just, you know, something too early. Let me see if this guy,
Here. Siap.
he was loaned. What did he decide to do? Some sort of... Okay, this is an infiltration. And for you to have this level of confidence to deeply infiltrate, I call this a deep infiltration. This deep infiltration strategy, I don't consider an 800 elo player is capable of using it. This is something of, for example, Black Forest, or H Forest as we used to call it. When you try to infiltrate villagers away from, you know, because in Black Forest map, what happens is that the the allied players and the enemy players are like separated by kind of like a bunch of forest in between them. And in the past that you don't have a forest where you have openings, the players start to early wall and make, for example, wood walls or castle walls in order to prevent infiltrations from the enemy team. Here, this guy decided to do the same. Since it was not walled or I was not looking, he decided to deeply infiltrate until the opposite side of the map of it. And the point is not just to gather wood. He probably had some idea later on. The blacksmith. Look at the need for him. He's making houses to protect the ville. And I tell you, he's going to barricade that ville. Here I see was making the market, so I thought, okay, he's going for a fast castle. I was still scouting him, but at this time I had no clue what was going on. Like I was just doing my normal stuff. I had less fishing ships, naturally, because I was, trying to go for land. Let's see if he had more vills. No. I had a bit more vills. But, it was just a choice at the time. I was unaware of what he was doing. And look, he's already making a barracks here, so he's probably barricading his ville. Like, I would not think of this. What kind of dirty strategy is this? In here, he decides to go for a TC as soon as he gets to Castle H. So this guy went for fast castle. FC under 18 minutes. Like 18, 19 minutes. To go fast castle is not necessarily a sign that you're a smurf, but combine this with the deep infiltration strategy used, the perfect circular motion of the scouts, is abusive gather pathing, with the 12 gather points he showed in the beginning, and the number of and his win rates at this yellow, you'll understand that this player is not the yellow he appears to be. Here I just decide to hunt him down, but it's irrelevant. He's going for the castle drop. And he's already going for the second TC. Now tell me, what kind of player already has two TCs 2 or 3 minutes after they get to Castle H, and in the two opposite sides of the mining, in the two opposite gold mining camps? It's like, now this is not an 800 elo player, excuse me. What would happen is that a player would try to secure one of two areas, not the two simultaneously. Like, it's something strange in this. Like, a normal player should probably secure one area and only then go for the other. But this guy already went one and other. Now, if you have this sort of strategy so quickly at hand, it's because you already had it. It's because you thought this before, and an 800 elo player in one-on-ones cannot display this sort of thinking process. He's a much higher elo player. So fast TC building and in the most strategic locations. I really had no clue what it was doing. Straight for the castle drop. And look how quickly you even use, you know, this, the gather point. This player needed to use, so it's the abuse of gather points. An 800 elo player cannot do this. And he sends all his vills on stone, only the vills on stone, which were 11, for the rest. And meanwhile, continues to gather food, gold, and wood. So another sign of Smurf, where he goes for a castle drop with 11 vills, and all remained vills on echo. At this time he has 39 vills. How many vills did I have? 42. Yet I could not know what he was doing. He just went straight for the castle drop. Right. This is ultimate sign of smurfing. You can see at least 2 or 3 things. The first thing is that he decides to rush with long swords. And he has 4 long swords. For that, he required gold and food. He doesn't have to worry about the stone because he's going for the stone thing. He doesn't have to worry about his food and gold because he continues to produce of that, because he keeps his vills on farm and on the gold. He also has vills on the wood for the farms. So he can continue to pump in infantry as much as it is needed. And the stone miners who are not mining stone, they're all building the castle, so he doesn't have to worry. He has everything covered. This guy has thought everything. So it's like he does not run out of resources for his attack plan. That's something very strange because when you decide to commit villagers to some sort of castle drop, you will actually suffer in some way in your echo. And this guy makes sure that his echo still continues intact. Look, and he still has vills on stone. Insane. What's more, this guy already researched attack and arm for infantry. You know, the first attack and the first arm. Insane. And he's already researching the second attack. So pawn, since minute 1819 is in Castle Age. 4 or 5 minutes later, he has the attack upgrades from the Feudal Age and Castle Age, and the armors of Castle Age probably, right?
Yeah.
Here I was surprised because guess what? My intention was to build a TC. You see, like any normal player. I went to Castle Age, I decided to build a TC near the gold mines, and look what I get. A rush. You don't need to be intelligent. You just caught in a bad place at a bad time. And it will be the worst place and the worst time if you face a Smurf. Because man, this kind of building here, the kinds of TC build and this building here is something of a Smurf. We'll watch the rest. Look, he also housed. This is another 8 sign of Smurf. He housed his castle. He housed the castle pot so that my soldiers could not get in. And this is something I see in 1.5 or 1.6k players, not in 800 EO players. And he was so quickly to all this. Here he just has fun because I don't have army. I decided to make knights and cavaliers, but see, I like castle in the face and you cannot react. These things happen so fast that you say, first, what happened? You don't even say, what can I do? You say, what happened? And he goes for stone. Continues to farm normally. Here I tried to wall an emergency wall. What he was doing there. Stable. So he was going to rush me with knights. See, he had 49 vills. I had 58, and still, he was the one pumping out resources. Lots of wood and gold. And me, no gold at all. This guy already won the map just because of gold. Because he was gold mining earlier than me. Anyway, let's continue. Then he just decides to castle drop me like hell. Another sign that you're facing a Smurf. He was able to make a castle in the middle of the second gold mining area. Castle in one of the gold mining areas. In the middle, in the exact middle of gold mining area. Now, I would probably make a castle near my town center and everything, but I would probably not go as to the middle. But this guy goes straight to the middle. 9 sign that this is a Smurf. It's not an 800 yellow player. An 832. My AS star. Here I tried to get my scout out because he was towing me. Here is just flooding me with karambits. So a strategy would be pretty simple. Flood him with karambits. 2 castles. So at this time it's already GG. Because look, there's no gold in this map unless in the middle. And this player abusively took everything already. He raced for the castle drop thing. And even I, when trying to get gold here, it was denied already. I mean, it's a dirty strategy, but it still doesn't take out the fact that I was smurfed here. And when you're smurfed, it's not your fault. It's your responsibility to expose the smurf, the cheater, because he's the one making your game impossible. You're never going to have a fair game if you're facing these kinds of players. Okay, now it will be an ultimate sign of a smurf. He's going to siege me by water using the Malay ports, which are called the harbors, right? Because these harbors, they fire arrows. They're going to use, he's going to make like a few of these around to attack me, kind of like castles. Here I told him is a Smurf. He doesn't respond. So it's another sign that is a Smurf. I call him a Smurf. And he doesn't respond. This sign, I call it the confessory silence. Because he doesn't confess. It doesn't say anything. But by not saying anything when you're called out a Smurf, you're indirectly admitting that you already are one. And he just race for castle drop. Using patterns against my town center, what? And another sign that he was a Smurf here, 12 sign, he was doing several things at the same time. Massing patterns to attack my TC, plus a second castle drop at the same time, plus harbor drop. He continued to build harbors, you know, because he has an harbor here. So it's like castle drop and harbor drop. I was not facing an 832 elo player. I'm sorry. If you're using a castle and a mini castle round, because these things attack, that's because you are a super professional here. You're a scumbag. And you already had infantry. Yeah. I decided to go early imp because it was my only chance here to try to drive him down before he could do the rest. But guess what? He had the whole gold and I had none. So I could never play in this map just because of the gold. And so I was, yeah. He denied me the gold. This is a strategy, but I still was massively smurfed. Like, I couldn't do anything. Look, and he already decides to castle drop me, or better, he's dropping me a second harbor, a third harbor. No, No, this is not an 800 elo player. I'm sorry. His farming is perfect. Mine, obviously, I'm completely wrecked. I tried to survive. And this guy has no empty space. No empty space whatsoever. So again, 13 sign. Perfect farming with no gaps. If you're that perfect building farms and no gap can be found, that's because you're Smurf. Now, I was struggling with this. I had to take away my vills away. But look, I have gaps. I have gaps in the farms I make. And I would have more farms if I would not be sniped like this dirty scumbag. I tried to wall here, but guess what? I could not wall if you decide to harbor place me here. Now, this guy was a mega professional, not an 800 deal player. Like I knew that this game would be impossible. Yeah, I told him cheater. Because I raced for the Imperial Age. And this guy, quickly after I got to Imperial, he got back to Imperial. Like, he went to him so fast. The kinds of text he researches. Conscription, bracers, chemistry, and it's like he wants to flood me with units. The this is a not an 800 elo player. If he wants to cover all my coast with harbors, that's not a normal player. That's a player trolling me on my face. It's like he's castle dropping me with harbors. It's a cheater. Now he just has to repair. He has plenty of stone. I had to delete the blacksmith in order to get those traps. Not sure yes, I did finish that castle. It was comfortable. I did build a castle. And this is the problem. Like in future strategy games, when I play against Timale, if he only had the Alberts, I could have hold him. But against like archers in this building, because it's kind of like an archer building, I could not. And I had so little gold. Like I had to sell out all my resources for gold, and he had not. It was a very complicated situation. Like I could go with that trap for the castle, but then you'll see he starts to pump halberds, and since I have no gold, I cannot make archers. I just told him the obvious. The game was not being fair. He pumps barracks. Now where does he have all his barracks? On this side. And decides to castle drop me. I realized it was stupid. Because he was strapping me from two sides, he had the gold, he had everything. I just felt stamped. Like, hammered since the beginning of this game. I understand that the strategy used is effective, but I cannot understand why a scumbag of this caliber is playing in my elo. Like, our elo should be clean of these rats, of these trackbacks. You're not displaying a play of an 800 elo player. Sieging me with harbors, castle drops, and just fooling me around? No. So to recap, all the evidences and signs that this Yannic1504 is a Smurf. At the start of the game, the perfect circular motion of the scouts under 30 seconds. He had 13 gather points of the scout in perfect circular motion. Second, he used the dip infiltration strategy. You recall this when the Centeville straight here for the side in the barracks. A fast castle age in itself not a sign of Smurf, but combined with the rest, and it is. Fourth sign, the two TCs on after the 2 or 3 minutes of reaching castle age, so like at 20 minutes mark or 21 minutes mark, he makes the two TCs, and guess what? In the 2 gold mining areas. Like, I decide to make the TCs, either close to each other. I tried also to get a TC in one of the mining areas, but he makes the 2 TCs in the 2 mining areas. Then, another thing, the abuse of gather points. And this is the 5th sign. This player used his villagers and gather points quite abusively. You saw it with the castle drop and everything. There was and even on the woods, he used that. Not the major sign, but still present. The 6th, the castle drop with 11 villagers, while the remaining villagers were entirely on echo. And still 4 villagers went stone mining at the time. I remember that number. So he was completely confident of his strategy. He worked him out. I'm sure he worked it out a long time ago. It was tested, super retested. It was just a repetition of what he already did thousands of times. Because you don't commit 11 villagers so far away. Because when you commit 11 villagers to build a castle, you stop having a lot of resource input, unless you already have that input covered. And that was the case because those villagers were just mining stone. And you already had the 2 TCs when you're doing that castle drop. Then the 7th sign that he was smurfing, the rush with the 4 long swords, where he just needed gold and food. And these long swords add their proper armors, researched, and also the attacks of feudal, the forging, and the iron calcing of the castle age. And well, I don't know what I wrote here. Does not run. Yeah, I know what I did right. They don't run. Like, he's able to rush with the long swords without ever running out of resources because he has food from the farms and the fishing ops, and he also gets the gold from the camp. So he still was able to pop out long swords while the castle was being built. Again, a deliberate strategy, which something for an 800 yield player sounds too far-fetched, if not hyper far-fetched. Another sign. House castle path. Yeah. Then he decided to house the path for the castle. So it's like a security measure. Like, why do you need it to think of this kind of security measure as quickly as you place the castle? It's like as soon as you get the castle placement, you immediately get the house placement on top of it. And this is something of a professional player. Some decide even to stonewall and wall or make palisades to cover it. Strange for an 800 elo player too that I see this in 1 point something players, K players, not in 800 elo players. And for example, this is the 9th sign, the castle in the middle of the gold mining area. This is not greedy. This is just abusive. That your castle covers the entire gold mining area. Like I would probably go with a castle if I could near my TC, or probably I would go with a backward castle, but not with a castle in the middle of the entire area. It's like you're saying, all this is mine and all this is mine, and you get no gold. I think this is abusive. So this map is, it's like Arabia and Rush at the same time. The one who first rushes on the gold gets the gold and gets the victory. What? It should not be the case. Maybe that's why this map has a problem. It's like, if the players had gold here, if each player has gold, maybe this kind of thing would not take place. So this could be worked later. The 10th sign that this guy was not an 800 elo player, but much higher elo. He was sieging by water using the Malay ports. You don't see it now, but when I played, and you did see, you can replay the video, there were Malay ports. There are 2 here, and there were far more before. 2. He was trying to siege me with Malay ports, kind of like mini castles. And here he had a castle. 11th sign. I called him a Smurf, and he did not respond. So it's the confessory silence. It's like a criminal that is busted. If he says yes, he obviously knows that he's confessing, and he will not say no because he despises the fact that he's been called so much that he needs to pretend that nothing exists. It's like he's being called out and he's caught in the act red-handed, and since he doesn't want to admit it, he just stays silent. So it's like uh, he's confessing that he's doing that. It's like an indirect way for him to tell, yes, I'm smurfing. And you're obviously supposed to know that, but I will not tell you because you're supposed to find that out and I'm not supposed to say it. Disgusting. The 12th sign. He was massing patterns to attack the TC while at the same time going for the second castle drop here, which I destroyed, and going also at the same time for a harbor drop. So he went for castle drop, and harbor drop right here at the same time, and also on this other side. And he builds like 1 more harbor here at least, and here probably 1 more. So a total of 3, 4, 5 harbors. So disgusting. Not an 800 elo player. No way, in no place. Maybe a 2K player, who knows. And 13 is perfect farming. Tell me where you see a gap in his farming. Here, this small little thing gap here, well, it's not very noticeable. Everything seems to be super covered. It's like this guy is optimizing his farms. He doesn't have wasted space. And of course, I had to run for my TCs. And I had to make a blacksmith emergency because I had to open a path here. So I was hammered since the beginning. And look, 3rd castle drop. And this is the 4th sign. A player with such an aggressivity of castle drops is not an 800 elo player. So yes, this game was a total cheater, and I busted this guy. If you are free to leave the comments and everything, you're free to leave the comments or whatever you like. But for me, this guy is a Smurf. I just pointed the evidences and give you proof. Now do with it whatever you want. It's exposed. Busted. Next.